Hello again and welcome to Histography. This is where I, Mike Barkoff, with Live Free, take a musical artist and I go through their discography and what they were going through in their lives when they made every album that they made. Currently, this is the first season. I am going over my top 5. This is 4 of 5 with Mac Miller. I appreciate you guys watching up to this point. If you have not seen them, go ahead and go back and rewatch them. But for now, with this current installment, we are going to be going over Mac Miller. Mac Miller has released a ton of music, including mixtapes, EPs, singles, so we are only going to be focusing on his albums, though we will stop for important mixtapes in between the albums. 2011 saw Mac Miller's first album called Blue Slide Park. Before that, he had done Kids, and Kids had performed fairly well, so he got signed and he wanted to make a first debut album. Not much is known about why Mac Miller made Blue Slide Park or what his driving force behind Blue Slide Park was, and because it's really more of a party frat album, there's not a lot we can really go off of. I will take that opportunity there to add that it's cool that someone like Mac Miller started with an album that seems so unimportant and not cohesive and ended up making some really phenomenal albums. Moving forward, Watching Movies with the Sound Off came out in 2013. This was a lot more dark and a lot more focused on Mac's darker depressions and thoughts, and it came after the death of one of his friends. Watching Movies with the Sound Off features a lot darker production, and it features a lot of features from the people that Mac was working with on his mixtapes, such as Schoolboy Q, Vince Staples, and it really is in the same vein as what followed it in terms of a mixtape, Faces, which is crazy because the mixtape that separates Blue Slide Park and Watching Movies with the Sound Off, entitled Macadelic, is entirely different than both of those projects. It is a lot more lighter and upbeat, aside from a few songs that kind of have sad sub-layers to them, implying Mac's addictions. Watching Movies with the Sound Off really introduced a darker side of Mac's music, which would continue in the aforementioned Faces. Faces is probably the mixtape we'll talk about it at most at length here, because he was on cocaine at the time, and it is considered to be his magnum opus by a lot of people, and it is a really dark and somewhat sad mixtape to listen to because you can tell just how much he felt the need to indulge in the thing that would ultimately become what killed him. Following Faces, we got Good AM, the third studio album from Mac Miller. The third studio album from Mac Miller, much like Blue Slide Park, doesn't really have any deeper meaning behind why Mac made it or what his thoughts were. There is a song in there called Perfect Circle / Godspeed, however, where Mac discusses his addiction at length and reveals that it is becoming somewhat of a major problem, with a lot of people thinking that he's going to overdose. Other than that, a lot of the songs on Good AM are much more uppity up, and considered Watching Movies with the Sound Off, it seems like Mac has, ironically enough, taken a more light approach, even in lieu of the addiction that he was struggling to overcome. This would be followed the next year by The Divine Feminine in 2016. The Divine Feminine was released when Mac started dating Ariana Grande. Though the album is not entirely about her, only 1 or 2 songs are, it is about Mac's failed relationships. This was originally intended to be a mixtape, or an EP, one of the two, I can't recall which, but Mac decided not to do that when he found himself having enough material to actually make an album out of it. A lot of the songs here are a lot more vibrant, a lot more colorful, sonically speaking, compared to the darker songs that predated it. The Divine Feminine is also one of the shorter albums of Mac's discography. There's not really much to say about The Divine Feminine other than Mac was dating Ariana Grande and he was being reflective in terms of his failed relationships. But I do want to get the message out there that that is my personal favorite Mac Miller album, and you should definitely go and check that one out. 2018 was the first time that Mac really took a break between albums without mixtapes being in the mix, because he released Swimming first after The Divine Feminine, which was his 5th studio album. Swimming followed the breakup with Ariana Grande, a DUI incident, and a lot of other probably deep, personal, sad suits that he was dealing with. Although, interestingly enough, Swimming and its sub-counterpart, Circles, were recorded the same time period before him and Ariana even broke up for some of the songs. I just think that's interesting. But Swimming was the prelude to Circles, and Swimming saw Mac discuss a lot more depressing themes, such as the breakup, how he felt like he was somewhat alone in the rooms he was in because he didn't really make the attempt to mix and correlate with the people around him. And it really is just it shows the mindset that he was in when he recorded the album. It shows the mindset that he was in with his depression, and it shows how he was really trying to fight his addiction. But you can literally tell on some of these songs that he's really trying, but he's just not fit to be trying. And it's sad, but Mac Miller passed away about a month after Swimming was released in 2018, the same year as J. Cole's K.O.D., which was talking about the same concept of rappers being on drugs, needing to get off of drugs. Ironically enough, J. Cole actually produced Hurt Feelings off of Swimming. Circles would release in 2020, 2 years after Mac Miller's death, and Circles was the counterpart to Swimming, and Circles saw Mac Miller deal with the left open wounds that he was dealing with when he was recording Swimming. Obviously, he was deceased before Circles came out, so there's not really much that we can go over in terms of what was going on in his life then, but his family arranged the album the best way that they possibly could, knowing Mac, and it was a phenomenal album, much like Circles, much like Swimming, and much like The Divine Feminine. And because of that, there's really not much more we can go on. But hopefully we get an album from Mac in the future. Hope Mac is resting well, and thank you guys for watching.